Yeah, they can say whatever they want.
Their seats I'd like to get started at 7 o'clock. At this time, I'd like to call to order the Oregon City Council Committee of the Whole meeting for April 21st, 2025. The time is 7 PM. Would you please stand and join in stand in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This is a committee of the whole meeting and attendance is not required. However, please note that all council members are present aside from Mr. Drake. I did talk with him today and he's doing good. He'll be joining us shortly. Also joining us this evening is Mayor Michael Safarian, our city administrator Joe Mazer, clerk of council Josette Snyder and Cassie Rawson, law director Melissa Papora, public service director Paul Roman, our chief of police Brandon Began, our assistant chief of police Ryan Spangler, our fire chief Clayton O'Brien, and that's it. So the first order of business this evening is persons and delegations. We have one individual that has signed up, Mr. Tom Lambrick. Mr. Lambrick, if you would come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Tom Lambrick, 5238 Seaman Road. Obviously, you had a lengthy conversation about roundabouts last week. I'm not going to go into that. But rumble strips were brought up. And then there was tons of chatter on Facebook about rumble strips. And studies and this and that. So apparently if Mr. Roman thinks about something, it's a study. But the rumble strips, I never heard anything about people running the stop signs at those intersections. And that would be the only reason why you would want to put rumble strips in. Rumble strips along a straightaway through roads, I've never seen it. It never happens. You have rumble strips on the highway on the shoulders. If cars or semis get off onto the shoulder, they get the rumble strips, but it brings them back on. There's never anything on a straightaway. I'm just trying to figure out why would we even consider the rumble strips or even look at them if there's not a problem with people running stop signs in those intersections. It's just that would be more waste of money.
Mr. President?
Mr. Mayor.
And Tom, that did come up, and I myself and Mr. Roman did comment on it, is that the majority of the accidents, and I witnessed many of them, were when someone at the stop sign that was stopped pulled out in front.
Right.
And so we totally agree. That was just suggestions people just came up with, but certainly not ones that we entertained at all.
Okay, and some of the conversations, and I know Facebook is what it is, but on some of the conversations there from people,
We don't tend to get into that discussion on Facebook
but
because not much is, there's no
some
rules
people
there
up here were talking about it.
on that side of the line.
No, on your side. Some people had big comments about
Yeah,
it.
but once they
And it
knew
sounded like
that,
it was something that was seriously being
and you're
looked at.
exactly right, you would cause an accident by putting it on
Correct.
the through road. So, yeah, we totally agree with you.
Okay. I mean, I'm not a fan of roundabouts. I'm not gonna get into that. That was something else.
But
I just
bear
wanted-
in-
I wanted
bear in
to
mind-
clarify on the rumble strips because that was,
One of the things that didn't come up is about a roundabout in kind of a rural area in your city, especially ones that don't have them in common areas, is that roundabouts are the things of the future. You know, they're coming, and when new intersections are coming. So if you had a community that puts them in somewhat a rural area like that, one of the things that it does do is it's a way of educating the people. They get used to going
Right.
in through them, and then when they come into them in congested areas or areas that have a lot of them, then they're familiar with them. So there is that effect that didn't, or that
right.
plus.
You know, I drove down Wynn Road and I looked at the intersections because I started thinking in my mind, were there two-way because they have some of them where you say two-way stop or four-way stop or this or that. You've got signs and flashing lights, and the signs say through traffic doesn't stop. I mean, there's enough information there. And I get it. We can debate safety all day long, you know, but my opinion is if you try to retrofit these things in those locations where you have residents that are close, you know, and I get it, safety is important. But also the resident also has an equal importance with their comfort of their home, how it is now. And that's something that you also have to look at.
And that was definitely something that we would. That's why the design would show exactly how it was impacting, so that
Right.
the people could assume this may impact me and my property tremendously. The actual print might show something other than that.
Right.
So you can't make that determination until that engineered print
Right.
shows up. And so it was just Mr. Roman responding to the concerns of safety. One thing you can argue is that a roundabout is safer than a two-way or four-way stop.
Well, it's.
There you got plenty of data to
Well,
absolutely.
there's data there, but your data is only 20 years old for roundabouts. Stop signs, two-way stops, it goes back for years.
But-
And I'm not gonna disagree that it's safer, but there still are accidents at roundabouts. It's
saying the accident, we're
serious
talking about
accidents are what stop.
Safer for personal injuries.
Right.
And fatalities.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roman?
Just if I could comment, Tommy, and I appreciate your comments, and I had the same concerns. I think, you know, last week, I think it was Tony Smith, you know, brought up as if they're going through the stop sign, you know, and I think I've mentioned, you know, the 5 accidents, you know, when we talk about these 3 intersections, they average 3 to 4, but you've had, you know, some years where it's 1 to 2 accidents, another year where it may be 5, you know. So I'm saying, when I know at Wynn and Corduroy, when they hit 5, that's when we put up the lights, the cross traffic does not stop.
Right.
And, you know, the accidents went down. So you are supposed to enhance what you have before you totally change the traffic pattern. So that's why we did that. So, but it is, I never took it as the rumble strips are going on the through street. I only took it as the stop street. And maybe it came out of what Tony Smith had, you know,
Right.
what he had noticed. And, you know, like Joel mentioned, the near misses and things like that. It's good to talk about anything that'll enhance the two-way. It's good to talk about it because that's what you're supposed to do, all right? But I did share the same concern. I thought, well, you know, the people that live right there, if a lot of the accidents were showing that they do stop, it's just that they think they can go when they can't, that's, you know, that to me is the real bulk of the accidents. But there may be someone who does go, who blows through it. So, you know what, if that can work, but like when I talked with Joel and I thought, you know, those things can be noisy. Those could be really annoying to somebody. I mean, if we're really concerned about what these corner property owners are going through, you might want to talk to them about that as well. And Joel had mentioned the mumble strip and, you know, maybe there's a softer way. So we'll test it out in an area where there is no homes first. Is probably not a bad idea. That's a good idea. So that's all.
You could do it right in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
In front of your house.
We don't have stop signs. You have nothing. And we don't have any accidents either. So trust me, that comes up a lot. You know, it's more of a courtesy thing. You know, it's different when it's through traffic coming through. Yeah, we don't have any signs.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lambert. The first item on the agenda for discussion is item 82 of 2025, and that's being presented by Mayor Safarian and our city administrator, Joe Major. Mr. Major.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, if you don't mind, and rest of council, I was going to talk about the first 4 items since they're all tied together. So this is, all 4 items would be for purchasing the properties on the corner of Wynn and Corduroy Road, the northwest corner. The first one is 445 North Wynn. The second item on the agenda is 505 North Wynn. The third item is 535 North Wynn, and the fourth item is 4961 Corduroy Road. So as you know, the purchase, there are 5 houses there. The first house was approved by council to purchase a few weeks back. And as we mentioned before, these next 4 houses would be coming up to city council for approval. And as mentioned before, these are still under option right now through the OEDF. And this would enable us to, through the OEDF, to exercise all 4 options with the property owners. So, but this is it. These last 4 properties, we believe that this will be the final piece to the puzzle here of assembling the industrial site. We are still working with the data center company. But you know, as you probably feel it the same way I do, in the same way that Nick Roman does. But the risk of purchasing these properties and what goes into that. So, but in a way, we have assumed, the city of Oregon has assumed a lot of risk up to this point of assembling land. We were successful in assembling the 168 acres as described in our contract with Capacity LLC, which is the data center company. But we were successful in assembling the land. This is the last piece of it. And they are still going through their due diligence period. So the update for everybody on that is that they have contracted now officially with First Energy for $250,000 to do a detailed load study. Right now, what they have done already is a preliminary load study. Now, in your typical data center developments, this is according to them, and I do talk with Will Turner, who was one of the gentlemen that was here when they had introduced themselves. He and I talk probably on average twice a week, but it's really on an as-needed basis. And it's really more or less just, you know, sometimes it's a 5-minute conversation, sometimes it's a, you know, half an hour. But essentially, they're meeting regularly with different utility companies at this point and going through their due diligence. But they're spending $250,000 on this detailed load study, and in a normal data center development, they would do a preliminary load study, get everything rolling, and as they're developing the site, do the detailed load study. Now what we're seeing is that these companies, the end users, are requiring detailed load studies as a prerequisite to their developments. Reason being that data centers do use a lot of energy. And what we're seeing around other areas, other regions of the country and in the state is that the capacity for energy isn't there. It's being absorbed by these data centers, and it's putting a strain on the grid at this point. So you may have heard that there are some data center projects in the state of Ohio that are either on hold or are delayed because they're searching for energy. That's what these data centers need, is energy. They're big energy users. They have to seek the energy through the utility that can provide it, and that's part of what this study is. So this is a prerequisite now. So these projects, you know, this is part of the due diligence process too. Good news is they're still spending a lot of money. They're working towards getting the energy needs met for the site. It's not just electricity, but it's also natural gas. In my conversations with Will, everything with the natural gas supply line is going well. So, you know, they'll have to you know, do the engineering, bring the natural gas to the site, and that's part of this process as well. Another interesting little tidbit is you've heard about the CPV, second natural gas power plant, also known as Oregon Clean Energy 2. That project is formulating as of right now. They've met with the PUCO and are seeking an approval to get into the PJM expedited queue process. Won't go into too much detail on CPV, but just know that they are working towards developing their site as well in conjunction with this data center site. Why that's relevant is because they're so close together, they're adjacent to each other, so there are some things that they have to work out between the two developments, including stormwater, managing stormwater drainage. So one of the other due diligence items is connecting with CPV to work on a way to engineer and resolve some of the logistics behind managing their stormwater. Outside of that, they are continuing to communicate with First Energy, the Regional Growth Partnership, and others to see this project through. So outside of that, this first property, it's owned by Valerie Bauer. The price you see in the contract amount was negotiated through option agreements. The second one is owned by Tony Parker. It's the same thing, the pricing is all in there. Had been negotiated through the options. The third one is Norman Peggy Nickerson. And the fourth one is Robert and Carol Lannon. So I believe they were here 2 or 3 weeks ago at one of the council meetings and wanted to see what was going on. Obviously, I don't think any of them are here today, but they were eager to see what was happening. And, this is the next step to what hopefully will be one of the biggest economic development projects in our region. So with that, I'll take any questions. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Major. Council.
President,
Mr. Horniak.
just a question, and I'll say logistics, with these 4 items before us this evening. When would the foundation move to close on the properties? What does that mean for the homeowners, the residents of the properties? At what point in time do they actually have to physically move out of that property? I know there's some language in the options that was written in. Can you speak a little bit to how that transaction plays out over time, please?
Thank you, Mr. President, or Mr. President and Mr. Horniak. Thank you for that question. That's a good question. In their contract, and correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, but we gave them 18 months to seek a new residence and move out upon closing. So when would so the first question though, when would they close? We'll seek to close on these properties as far as we can push it prior to execute the options prior to their expiration. So wait as long as possible because we're not anticipating closing with capacity until they're ready, which will be sometime down the road. We're talking about sometime later this year, depending on how quick First Energy can move on this detailed load study. That we have to wait and see when the timing of that closing will take place. But that's the main thing that we're waiting on is the detailed load study. But as for the homeowners, we're looking to execute the options as close as we can to before they expire, and then close within 60 days, I believe is what it says in their option agreements. So, and I believe we gave them 18 months time to seek a new residence. And if I may, real quick, some of them have a little bit longer. Some of the residents wanted to negotiate a little more time for themselves, so that was part of the deal too. So it's individualized.
Okay, so follow-up question to that. So if the assumption is, 60 days roughly from the expiration of the option that we currently have with them, that puts most of them probably into late summer, early fall, that time frame. So that then starts the clock of the 18 months for them to move out or find alternative residence at that point. If something doesn't go on with this, and certainly hoping that's not the case, but just to ask the question, does that change that 18-month outlook, or the city still acquires and that same 18 months still lays in there, even if nothing were to move forward with capacity, even though that's the unlikelihood? If capacity doesn't come, we own the properties and the houses, they still have to move out in 18 months.
Correct. That's contractually, yes, but there would be some leeway there, obviously. Capacity knows this as well. They're willing to work with people. They plan on starting at one end of the site by Blue Heron and working their way east. So that'll be plenty of time for them to, the 18 months, they're aware of that. So the 18 months for them, they're aware of it. It's not an issue for them. But we're fully anticipating that this project is going to come to fruition because of, one thing I wanted to say is that, there are some concerns that because of the other locations in the Columbus area where data centers have stopped building or delayed their construction because of energy. We, in this region, in our Northwest Ohio region, specifically for this property, according to Will, and we are planning on having them come back to give everybody an update, because obviously this is near and dear to everybody's heart. Everybody wants to, you hear from us from time to time, but it's good to hear from them. And they should be a part of that conversation too. So at some point, they'll come back in here and talk to city council, but I will say from their words that our property is very unique in that it is zoned appropriately. It has the energy capacity, not only the electricity, but the natural gas. It has all of it. And it's such close proximity that this property for them is a kind of I'll call it a one-of-a-kind site for a data center. So the confidence level for them is very high. For us, it's very high. But you're right. It's always good to look at the what-if scenarios, because going back to risk, this is part of the risk. Acquiring these properties, it's a big capital outlay for something that we're anticipating will happen, but it's certainly not a guarantee until somebody signs on the dotted line. But there is a high confidence level of that. So I hope I answered your question.
You did. Thank you, Mr. Mazur. Thank you, Mr. President. That's all I have.
Thank you,
Mr. President.
Mr. Mayor.
And Steve, I would expand a little bit. I did talk to several of those residents about the 18 months, and I talked to the folks from Upterra, and they said they would have some latitude, and they would try to work with those people. If they needed additional time, that wasn't out of the question. They're planning to start from the westerly side and move east. So if there was latitude to be sought, getting it on the east end was easier.
Very good. Thank you.
And the folks know that over there, because I stopped and talked with them regularly.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Salander.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick question. So with the timeline as has been spoken about there with the 60 days from the option and 18 months and so forth, just for a question that has been brought up to me, just on the fact of them being emergency, can you just speak on that just briefly? The fact that they're being passed as emergency?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Mr. Salander, we mentioned that we would be bringing these back, and we don't want to slip on the timeline of when these options expire. So we want to make sure that we have enough time to execute the options. So that's why we want to make sure that the reason for the emergency would be to meet the timeline before the options expire and make sure we have everything prepared.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mazur. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Salander, I know we all get the packets and that, and the emergency clause is always in section 5. I mean, if you I mean, when you pick up your packet, you could probably explain it to them that way as well.
Right, I just like that there's other people, because it's been kind of a hot topic just in general, and especially, well, anyway, just been a hot topic. So
Okay.
I just want to make sure anybody who I didn't speak with, because I'm sure there's others that have the same question. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. Ackerman?
thank you. I'm pretty stingy, but I'm very excited in light of the millions of dollars that the city has spent on farmland and, trying to assemble these acres for this project, that we're having consideration for homeowners and our own citizens. And so if this goes through, regardless of whether the data center happens or not, whatever industrial or advanced manufacturing, I should say, that goes in there, I'm happy that they can stop being, tormented with, is this gonna happen for us or not? And that we're not gonna do like some cities and just push them out of the way, or, just disregard that those are their homes. And so I'm really happy to see this go through, or at least, if it goes, the advances. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ackerman. Okay, council, we have the four of the exact same, but just the different property owners. Now, item 82, 83, 84, and 85. Is there any objection of just rolling through those? Or we're all set? Okay. Right. Just do it once. Okay, let's see. I will seek a motion to move item 82, 83, 84, and 85 to next week's agenda.
Mr. President?
Mr. Wallenczak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I make a motion to move items number 82, 83, 84, and item number 85 of 2025 to next week's regular meeting agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Horniak. We have a motion by Mr. Wallenczak, second by Mr. Horniak, to move item 82, 83, 84, and 85 of 2025 to next week's agenda. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none. Item 82, 83, 84, and 85 of 2025 are all moved to next week's agenda. Our next item on the agenda for discussion is item 86 of 2025, being presented by our mayor and city administrator, Joe Mazur. Mr. Mazur.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item number 86 would allow us to accept a grant from the America 250 program. So what we did was we were informed that there was a grant application process for the America 250 programs, and looking into it, I talked with Larry Schaefer, thought about some projects that we could have in the city of Oregon. Obviously, there's a lot of support behind Jake and Cooper's Bark Park. And there are a lot of different grant programs through the America 250 grant programs. The one that was selected, and I chose this one, and I took it upon myself because, and talked it through with Larry and some others, but we chose this one because it was, there was a request from the Bark Park to see if we could plant trees, if the city could plant trees around it. And looking at the grant program, the Jake and Cooper's Bark Park was this project was the best fit for, I think, what we could come up with in a short period of time for applying for a grant. So this is through the Heritage Trees tract, and the theme around this grant program was storytelling. So I'll try to keep it brief. It's a $5,000 grant, and the goal is here to build a memorial sign for Jake and Cooper's Bark Park's namesake. Create an interactive page for people to post their stories, so it would be like a web page where people can kind of post their stories about their pets, about any mental health issues or grief that they've been through, and how their pets help them, and also plant trees. So in addition to this, we're working with the Keep Toledo Lucas County Beautiful right now through actually one of the OEDF members who I'm good friends with, works for a company, and he's working with Adam Cassie with Keep Toledo Lucas County Beautiful to secure some of the tree plantings to help with this, so to help match it. Also, we do have a budget for tree plantings in our budget, but the more help we can get, the more trees we can plant elsewhere. So that's kind of how I look at it, and hopefully it works out. The next step is if approved by City Council, the next step would be for me to meet with the Jake and Cooper's Bark Park Board and kind of go through the logistics of what it would take to get all of this accomplished. And then it has to be done in conjunction with the construction of their pavilion. So they are building a pavilion. This sign would go in it, likely in front of their donor wall or somewhere in the pavilion. And then, hopefully it turns out to be a success, and we're working towards that. So with that, like I said, I'll keep it brief and answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you, Mr. Major. Council,
Mr. President,
Mrs. Ackerman.
thank you for doing all that, Joel. And every day I look on here to see if we're listed as a community, America 250 Ohio community. And so I'm just, I'm hoping we can fulfill that and get on the board with that, because the activity you mentioned is part of the stuff that you would list on a statewide, on their statewide website for it. So just want to keep looking every day, and I don't know what else we have to fulfill to get on there. And, like you said, it's probably a lot of volunteers that are running it down there, but I look forward to seeing Oregon, the city of Oregon, on their list. So
Yeah.
thank you for I saw your letter and everything.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Ackerman.
Mr. President, real quick on that. So what Ms. Ackerman is talking about is the America 250 webpage has a list of all the, as you remember, there was a resolution that was passed declaring us and apply for, legislating us to come in as a America 250 city, which they require the legislation and the approval and the affirmation from City Council. And we did submit an application to it. So obviously they awarded us the grant, so we are an America 250 community. They just don't have us listed on there. I don't know why, but reached out, tried to get us on there, but I don't know what else we can do other than whoever runs their webpage to add us in. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood what
Thank you,
what we're
Mr.
talking
Major.
about. So.
Thank you, Mrs. Ackerman. Council, any additional questions or concerns? Hearing none, I will seek a motion to move item 86 of 2025 to next week's agenda.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Salander.
I'd like to make a motion to move item 86 of 2025 to next week's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Salander.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Ackerman. We have a motion by Mr. Salander, a second by Ms. Ackerman to move item 86 of 2025 to next week's agenda. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none, item 86 of 2025 is moved to next week's agenda. The next item on the agenda for discussion is item 87 of 2025. That's being presented by our Mayor Safarian and Police Chief Brandon Began. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am bringing forward this ordinance seeking approval to purchase a Direct Link Bridge Series crisis response system, which includes a throw phone and a surveillance unit. This system will greatly help our crisis negotiation team to handle situations involving barricaded persons and hostage situations. The equipment will be used to give direct communication with persons in crisis when other means of communication are unavailable or are inferior. The equipment has multiple functions which will allow real-time communication and a live video feed from inside of the scene. The live feed will allow the incident commander and the special response team to make strategic decisions on how to respond to the situation. And the direct communication will also allow our trained crisis negotiators to speak with the person in crisis and attempt to bring a peaceful end to the situation. Our crisis negotiation team are highly trained in bringing peaceful resolutions to these types of situations, and I believe this equipment will help their efforts and allow them to be more effective in handling these situations. We did have this in this year's budget. It was fully funded through the COPS grant that we got last year that we've spoken about quite a bit. The company is in Wisconsin. It's a U.S. company, Enforcement Technology Group. They are a sole source provider, and we have a 30-day, a quote that's good for 30 days through them. That's why we're bringing it forward as an emergency. We believe if we go beyond the 30 days, even though it's a U.S.-made equipment manufactured in the U.S., there are some components that come from overseas and may be affected by the tariffs. So that's really all I have about the system. Assistant Chief Spangler and I will both be gone next Monday at a conference, so I'm hoping if you guys have any questions or anything that I can answer, we can do that today, because we won't be here. So I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Chief, you will be in the office through Friday if there's any questions, correct?
Correct.
This upcoming Friday, so if anybody needs to contact them, please feel free to do that. Okay, Counsel, thank you, Chief. Did you have anything further, Chief?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. Counsel, any questions?
Mr. President,
Mrs. Pauloff?
first of all, did you say that this was coming out of the grant that you received? That's coming out of that money?
Mr. President, yes,
Yes.
that's correct.
Okay. And secondly, is there a reason why that 1,000 is not in the reading? Is it because it's coming out of that amount? Or when you read the ordinance, shouldn't that 32,000 be in there? In the read for the ordinance itself?
Mrs. Pepper, did you want to answer that, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Pauloff. It's not required, but in section 1, it does state it.
Okay. No, I just thought if it was going to be read, if that amount would be like not to exceed that amount in the reading when she goes to read it, because she reads it off of this, not off of the front page itself.
Right, so like the title is what you're
Right,
referring to.
the title. I just wanted to see if that was, if the amount needed to be in the title.
It's not. I hear what you're saying, your suggestion. Is it required? No. What's required is for us to make sure that we have it included in section 1, which it does, but I hear what you're saying, that you would like to have those numbers in the title for future ordinances.
Right, because when people look at it and want to know how much it is, they don't go through all of the paperwork, they just look at what's in here. And then they look at the amounts and then say, well, how much is it? So that's what I wondered. If it doesn't have to be in there, it doesn't have to be in there. I was just wondering why it wasn't in the reading.
Yeah, that would be why, but that is something that we definitely can take into consideration when we do future ordinances.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Counsel, any other questions for Chief Began? Hearing none, I will seek a motion to move item 87, correct, 87 of 2025 into next week's agenda.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Pauloff?
so moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Pauloff.
Second.
Second by Mr. Salander. We have a motion by Mrs. Pauloff, a second by Mr. Salander to move item 87 of 2025 to next week's agenda. Counsel, are there any objections? Hearing none. Item 87 of 2025 is moved to next week's agenda. The next item on the agenda for discussion is item 88 of 2025, being presented by Mayor Safarian and Director of Public Service, Paul Roman. Mr. Roman.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is needed to proceed with survey work for a water line replacement project for the Star Avenue Addition neighborhood. There's a site map for this project in the exhibit, but the area is bounded by Wheeling Street on the west, Seaman on the north, Burnlin on the east, and really Northvale on the south, but we put in Star Avenue on the south side. Project's 2.5 miles of water line replacement, really all 8-inch. History of this area, you know, we always list, you know, the number of accidents for its life, and there's been 93 breaks over the last 50 years. But on Bleecker alone, they had 6 breaks in this past year. So it's moved up to the top of our list, and that's why we're pushing for this neighborhood to have their water lines replaced sooner. We do design in-house for these projects. This cost is their construction will probably be around $2.3 million. We did apply for did nominate it for an EPA grant and, or excuse me, an EPA loan. And then our plan in the fall is to apply for OPWC grant funding. So we really need the survey to get the design rolling so that we can at least get the grant application done for OPWC. We'll continue to design and then try to bid it out sometime next summer, a year from now. So we did seek proposals for the survey work, and Kleinfelder, we did receive 4 proposals. Kleinfelder was the lowest and best quote received. So, and the description of work and costs are included in Exhibit A. And so happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council? Hearing no questions or concerns or additional questions, I will seek a motion to move item 88 of 2025 to next week's agenda.
Mr. President,
Mr. Salander.
I'd like to make a motion to move item 88 of 2025 to next week's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Salander.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Pauloff. We have a motion by Mr. Salander, a second by Mrs. Pauloff, to move item 88 of 2025 to next week's agenda. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none, item 88 of 2025 is moved to next week's agenda. And our last item on the agenda for tonight is item 89 of 2025, and that's being presented by Mayor Safarian and Director of Public Service, Paul Roman. Mr. Roman.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is needed to enter into an easement agreement with Hickory Shore condominiums. This is the second easement agreement needed out of 3 that are needed to actually put the project out for bid. Again, the project is a multi-use trail that'll go from Navarre Avenue to Star Avenue. Let's think here. Again, once we have all 3, we'll go out for bid. The easement is being donated, but it is in exchange for the city to take over the maintenance of their asphalt drive. So if you're familiar with Hickory Shores, there's a little stub street. So if we take that over, and they're saying only to take it over whenever we do Hickory Shores subdivision, we would include them as a part of that work, or, you know, mill and fill work. And also for part of this in exchange for this is for us to install 225 feet of vinyl fencing just to separate the condo backyards from the bike trail, which is fair. We've had rests like that in the past. So that's it. So basically they're donated, but it's a barter exchange for the easement agreement. So
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, any questions or comments? Hearing none, I will seek a motion to move item 89 of 2025 to next week's agenda.
Mr. President.
Mr. Wallenczak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move for passage, or make a motion to move item number 89 of 2025 to next week's regular meeting agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Pauloff. We have a motion by Mr. Wallenczak and a second by Mrs. Pauloff to move item 89 of 2025 to next week's agenda. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none, item 89 of 2025 is moved to next week's agenda. With all the items on the agenda being considered, we will now move on to the mayor's report. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Council, I would like to ask Steve Horniak from the Economic Development Committee of Council to call a meeting to discuss Boomfest activities and expenditures and how we can proceed. We have $30,000 of city money allocated to Boomfest. We carried in $12,000 from last year. We currently stand at $42,000. I believe it will cost approximately $140,000 to operate all the operations that take place, and that leaves me and Joel Mazer to raise $100,000. We believe we have an avenue to do that. It is one of the hardest things we do here is to ask, or it's hard for me, to ask people for money. It is a very difficult thing. I don't want people to be fearful of seeing me because they think I'm always asking for money. But we have been strategic in how we go about raising money. We've had some requests from some people that are willing to contribute, but they want to do that anonymously because they say once we give, it kind of opens the floodgate. Everybody's got their hand out. So we have maybe $20,000, $30,000 worth of possible donations that we'll be willing or considering donating, but they would want to disclose that as a anonymous donation. And I said we may be able to do something like that if they donate through the Chamber of Commerce or one of the entities, and then the Chamber ends up forwarding the money to our account. So these are the things we would discuss, the activities and how we go about raising this nearly $100,000. We think we can do that, but we got to know very soon because we got time parameters to put deposits on some of these things. One other thing is two of the vendors, the headliner and the sound, light, video personnel, both will be expenditures over the $25,000, so we would need ordinances for both of those. So once again, we believe we can do all of this with the $30,000 of city funds and $110,000 worth of donations. So that's all the things we would be discussing for Mr. Horniak, Councilman Horniak's committee, and that's about it. I think we can answer the questions or any of the topic matter that comes up in that meeting. I don't want to do it all right now, but we would do that meeting in this room, projecting it live the way we do these meetings. So everybody will know. With that, I would end my report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mazer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of quick updates. There was a question about the EnviroSafe and the Toledo Waterline project. We don't have answers yet, so I just wanted you to know that we're working on it, and hopefully we'll get better answers and be able to report back when we can.
Thank you.
The blood drive for the police department is May 7th, right? May 7th? Sorry, I thought I had the correct date.
I don't know.
Wednesday,
Let's see.
May 7th
Is it this?
was correct.
I thought it was 8.
So if you do have a chance, please sign up. They can contact Jill, right? Or they can go right to the, Jill has a posting sent to all city employees for a link where you can get on the Red Cross website and sign up. It's real easy.
Okay.
I think some of you have donated in the past, you donated at the last one, so this is the second go-around. I wanted to point that out. So the last thing I did want to mention too, and I don't want to steal any of Councilwoman Ackerman's thunder here, but the biggest week in birding is coming up. We go through this citywide master plan update, and one of the 5 central themes of this update is, not creating an identity, but accentuating an identity, I would call it. And I believe that part of our heritage here in Oregon is our environmental stewardship. you know, the biggest week in birding is big for our area, it's big for our region, and it's big for the city of Oregon. So I know that's coming up. I believe that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Friday, the 9th, is the opening ceremony, and then through the 18th are all of the events. It's, there is a, they do put out a magazine on this. They have all of the events in there. I'm looking forward to seeing people there. So that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mazur. Mrs. Pepora.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Pepora. Mr. Roman.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Horniak.
Just following up with the mayor regarding the Economic Development Committee meeting, I would ask as well, would that be better in a joint meeting with Recreation, being it's a Boom Fest city recreation piece?
It makes no matter to me. We're trying to figure out who, we didn't know if it would be recreation or economic development. I don't know
You
that
don't
it
have an
needs to be
issue if we
two-
tried to do it as a joint together? Because I think as part of recreation, it's certainly part of economic development. Mr. Reeves, would you be
Oh,
okay with that as
absolutely
the
be on
chairman of
board.
that committee?
Yep, we could, yeah, do it jointly.
If we tried to do that meeting for next Monday, the 28th, because I will not be here the following week.
All right.
Is that too soon, or will we?
No,
be
the
ready to
sooner the
present?
better. The sooner the better. We got people call, we got a lot to do.
Okay.
You know, like I said,
Mr.
one of the
Reeves.
most awful things is asking people for money.
I think we all know that up here.
Absolutely.
Mr. Reeves,
I'm
does
really
that date
looking
work
forward
for
to
you
it.
as the chair of recreation?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you had said.
Does that date work for you?
Yes.
As a chair of the Recreation Committee?
Yes.
And for the two other members in Economic Development, Ms. Ackerman, Mr. Salander, does that work for you for next Monday? Okay. In that case, I would like to set a meeting for the Economic Development Committee for Monday, April 28th at 6 PM. That gives you an hour. Is that plenty of time?
If it's not, we could do another one, but
Drag our
I
way through.
would think so.
Okay. Then we'll schedule for Monday, April 28th at 6 PM here in council chambers, and it'll be a joint committee meeting between Parks and Recreation and Economic Development.
Thank you.
I don't have anything from my standing committee to report, but I do have one piece of further business for council when committee reports are done, if you can come back to me.
No problem, Mr. Horniak. Thank you. Mrs. Polloff.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mrs. Polloff. Mr. Wallenczak.
No report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Mrs. Ackerman.
Mr. President, last Wednesday, Tom Lambrecht and I, Keith Henninger, two employees from the Streets Department, attended Tree City USA in Bowling Green. That is a beautiful facility, and they did a beautiful job of hosting it. And I won Keith's door prize when he had to leave and left me his ticket, but you guys didn't hear me say that. Anyway, it was, I do want to apologize that I wanted to have a growth award so badly. And if you're not familiar with the Tree City USA, you have to have shown some expansion in your committee and what you've achieved. And we're growing, we're on the right track, but I hold myself responsible for not pushing harder and getting that growth award for our city this year. And hopefully next year we will achieve that. We are a tree city, but it does show that you're actively expanding what you're doing. But it was a very nice day, and it was great to be with Northwest Ohio communities and share their successes and learn from them. And it's a good deal of camaraderie. And I would like to say, I was gonna bring, the magazines are out that have for the biggest week in birding, and I was right there, and I should have I wanted to grab a stack to bring, but I'll get some in here and put them on the counter in the back room there. But for those of you that do bird, if you don't have it already, the Merlin app ID, the Merlin ID, If you're busy, you just turn it on, set it down, see what it's picking up, and then you can, look around and look for those things that that you may not recognize. But the southwest winds that we had a few days ago, the crazy ones we're having, the southwest winds are bringing the birds. There are quite a few warblers being seen, a lot of birds already. So don't wait till the biggest week in birding. You don't have to do that. They're already coming through. So for nerds like me, I'm pretty excited about it. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ackerman. Mr. Salander?
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing from my standing committee, just a couple quick points. One is this weekend, Oregon Community Theater has their opening weekend of Into the Woods. So support our local theater as well as our, sorry to jump on your rec center, but the rec department, but they do a heck of a job and very, very talented, and I know I'll be there for opening night, so just that. And then the last thing is, and I won't take forever on it, but I just wanted to make a couple points. Just one, Mr. Roman, I just want to say that I hope you understand that I fully respect you and I fully respect your information, your knowledge, and I know you have the heart for our citizens. And I don't want you to, I know it's frustrating, and I ask a lot of questions, a lot of things, so I appreciate you, and I hope you just understand that. So thank you for everything that you do. Because, I get questions from citizens prompted off of things that I post or say, or as well as other council people. And those questions that I ask at times are not always my questions, but questions that are brought to me based off of things that we do post or say, especially when we contradict ourselves, for clarification. And so the questions that I bring are not here to be gotcha moments, but they're supposed to be moments of clarification for myself as well as the citizens that do read those and do approach us on those. So I want to make that said, and because our words do have power. All of our words have power because us as leaders of the city, people watch what we say, people read what we say, and they trust what we say. And sometimes they don't, and they question. So it's just very important that we remember that our words do in fact have power. And and when there's questions like that, or we bring questions here or to each other as council people and city leaders, that we just need to just answer the questions honestly, with character and professionally as best we can, and keep it at that. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Salander. I have nothing from my standing committee, but I got have a couple of SUE, public hearings that I'm going to have to set here. But first, before we do that, there was a letter to the editor in this week's Metro Press, and it's from a citizen. I'm not going to name who they are, but they're just the gist of it. It says, why does the Oregon administration keep giving us duplicates of what we already have and nothing what we need or want? We already have the 4 gas stations. Why do we need a 5th? Why are we getting a Dairy Queen right across the street from, or just down the street a little ways from Dairy Depot? Now, they're, I don't want to say complaining, but requesting why are we getting a Waffle House that's real close to American Table, are we trying to put them out of business? I've asked the mayor, and I've talked with the mayor before, to please explain what we can and can't do as a council or as an administration or as a city with these properties. I'm not going to, my viewpoint's a lot like the mayor's. So I'll just have, Mr. Mayor, if you would, please.
Well, that's a kind of an awkward question, but it was also more awkward as a letter to the editor, because the community have the belief that the city does the attracting of these sites. The Dairy Queen, for instance, was zoned C5, and it permitted that use. So the people that put the Dairy Queen in didn't have to come and ask permission. They just had to go to the Building and Zoning Department and apply for a building permit. And if they met the requirements of what the building permit was, they could conduct business. The Waffle House was, did have a zoning change on those parcels, but they came forward. We did not ask them. They came to the city, and it was always determined that that part of Wheeling Street would be a commercial part of a corridor. If we promote an area to be a certain way and then deny somebody from getting that zoning when we promoted it, we put ourselves in an awkward position. The Sheets, the zoning was already in place on that site. They seen it, and they thought it would be a good place to locate. Once again, we did not ask them to come to the site. They inquired, seen the zoning, sat there. The Sheets actually was very instrumental in helping the developer with possibilities on our Kmart site or our town center site. When people, other investors see activity and people willing to make investments and taking an old building down and putting something there, that Sheets, the 7 Brew across the street, all of those were significantly helpful for the developer of River Rock to land what we believe is at this point, at least 4 contracts. You will see groundbreaking there early in May. They put up the construction fence. They've been surveying the property, not only on the town center site, but also on the old freeway site, where you'll see activity take place very soon. So things that were eyesore to us, things that happen kind of slow, it appears that everything is kind of happening at once now. So once again, if we have property that's zoned a certain way or we're promoting a certain way, it's not us who pick and choose. It's people that are willing to make an investment. So we did not know anything about Dairy Queen coming here till they pulled permits in our Building and Zoning Department, and lo and behold, we found out it was a Dairy Queen Grill and Chill. That's free enterprise that exists, and we try to work with it and be as obliging to people that are willing to spend a lot of money in our community and work with them. And I believe you'll see it paying off in our town center. I think you're going to see a lot of activity real soon. And the developers told us, Bill Bosselman and Mike Denman, that once it took off, the floodgates were open. There's a lot of people with a lot of interest in that area. They do not wish to disclose some of the businesses until they break ground, because once again, they see the same articles we see on social media, and if they say something and it doesn't happen, it's a failure. It's really working out well, and for all of us. And
Thank you, Mr.
Joel, do
Mayor.
you want to add anything to that? I mean, we could go on.
Yeah,
We're so excited right now.
Mr.
And-
Major, yes.
And one of the things I tell you, you guys know what kind of time you get involved with as council people, talking about things with people. I've been there. I've been a councilman for 20 years before I became mayor. I'll tell you, when you're in the administrative side, I bet it's at least 10 times more involved that we have. Some weeks, I'm here 50, 60 hours a week, or involved with the things. It is a very gruesome thing, but very rewarding also. There's a lot that goes down for any one business, yet alone industrial, commercial, and everything in between, residential. happening all at once, stuff never ends. It's a very hectic time here.
And Mr. President, if I may.
Yeah, Mr. Major.
Real briefly, the biggest thing is, it's, as the mayor mentioned, it's free market enterprise. And if something is zoned appropriately for a certain use, that owner of that property and that business that wants to locate there has a right to do that. So it really comes down to an issue of property rights, trying to put it as simple as possible. It comes down to property rights and whether or not the government should come in and tell people what they can and can't do on their property. And in these instances, people are coming forward and moving ahead with building businesses. And they're doing it the right way. If you do need a variance or there is a special use exemption or something like that from the Planning Commission, then, they have a right to apply for that process and have it be heard. So just to reiterate what the mayor had said and try to put it in the form of, it's a property rights issue that people have a right to, it doesn't matter who it is. They have a right to apply for zoning exemptions or special use exemptions to the Planning Commission, and they have a right to do what they want to do within reason on their properties. So that's why we have the rules in place the way we do. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mayor?
And the woman that came up last week talking about the BJ's Hideaway with the old, we know as the old Ritz, that was a real example of the fact that it has grandfathered clauses in there. We worked with BJ Lawson to try to incorporate something to make it a little better, a little more appealing to the neighbors, and went out of our way to try to make the best of a situation, or to make a situation a little better. Even though they still may have certain rights, we do everything we can to try to please as many people as possible. It doesn't always look like that, but I'll tell you, I'm really fortunate to be working with a lot of very dedicated administrators that we have here that actually live their job. They don't work it. They live it day in and day out. They Mr. Roman, Joel, Melissa, all the guys over there, they take their job home with them. It follows them 24/7. We live our jobs. We love it, but that's what makes success, when you live the job you do. And we're fortunate to have almost all our staff is like that.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Horniak, I'll have you go if you don't mind before I do the public hearings.
Absolutely. And it'll be brief, and I'm not expecting a lot of dialogue or follow-up or answers to this. But a lot of the discussion last week when we were talking about roundabouts was about safety, especially at these specific 3 intersections. I know, Joel, in your update of the week, you had said that we are going to look at testing the mumble strips, potentially at Cedar Point Road and Wynn. Kind of give us some feedback, see what that is. Some of the other things we talked about, after that, and the 2-way stop to a 4-way stop, we talked about speed limits on Corduroy Road. And I'm just throwing out the ideas that were expressed last week, because I'm going to kind of sound like a broken record. I'd like to have some follow-through on some of those ideas. What is possible, what's not. I sent you a report that I got to give full credit to ChatGPT to say, give me information on how you can do this. And I think it did make a case for there are opportunities which still stays within Ohio's traffic restrictions where you can consider a 4-way stop versus a 2-way. Haven't done that with speeds, but I would like us to continue that conversation because as I said last week, and I'll stay consistent with it, if it's about safety at those 3 intersections, then it's about safety. Around about 3 years from now is not going to do us any good this summer, next year, the year after that. I'd like us to exhaust all possibilities between now and the near future so we can take action on anything we might be able to. So I'd like us to continue talking about that if we can. And again, somewhere over the next few weeks, I'd like us to keep revisiting some of those other options of how real they could be or whether they're doable or not for us as a community. And that's all I had with that, Mr. President.
Mr. Roman.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Horniak. And I did talk with Keith Henninger today. He is going to go to all property owners where we think there is vegetation or trees and talk to them. If they're private trees, could we cut it back? Even offer a tree, put it in their yard somewhere, backyard, whatever, I don't care. Something to compensate them and try to clear it. So yes, you are right. Our goal, no matter what, is to try to improve it whenever we can. So we will proceed with that. And I appreciate things last week. I think, and I had talked to you in the hallway, I said, it's hard when it's a 4-2 split like that because, that ordinance is just one of many, when you apply for the grants and you need easements, there'll be an LPA. If you did get the grant, you have an LPA agreement with ODOT. There's a lot of legislation that follows with each one of those, so it's a lot of meetings. And this is just the start of it. So yeah, we plan to do that. So, but I appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Okay, we have two public hearings that I'm gonna set. The first one is, and this is on a Tuesday, May 27th, because of Memorial Day being the day before on Monday. So we'll schedule it for Tuesday, May 27th, 2025 at 7 p.m. The two special use exceptions. The first is an application SUE 187-25 for a special use in a R2 medium density residential district for the purpose of providing personal care in a single family dwelling for minors awaiting foster care placement on the property described as parcel number 44-87954. The applicant and owner is Brian White. Isaiah 117 house property. The location is 300 Crestway Drive. The second is an application SUE 188-25 for a special use in a C1 neighborhood commercial district for the purpose of conducting business as a general contractor's business office and storage yard on the property described as parcel number 44-46235. The applicant is Robert Dito. Blake Homes for owners, Molly Ventures Ltd. The location is 6050 Navarre Avenue. So those will be set for Tuesday, May 27th. Just a reminder, Monday is Memorial Day, so we'll do it the following day. If there is no further business before council, I will seek a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President?
Mrs. Pauloff.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Pauloff. Second by Mr. Horniak.